Now, I have some criticisms of Rand Paul, his recent decision on the 9/11 first responders healthcare issue. But you know what? It's just that, a light criticism. I think Rand Paul is a man of principle. Disagree with him on some things. That's kind of the way it should be. I stand fully behind the 9/11 first responders. I'm very much in favor of the bill. I think we as a country should make that our top priority, protecting those veterans, first responders, etc. Because the only reason we have this beautiful, free, and wealthy nation is because of those who are putting their lives on the line to give us that. I recognize that. So, I've got a disagreement with Mr. Paul. But you know what I wouldn't do? Tackle him and cause him to have part of his lung removed. This is the problem of political violence. Now, and I want to stress, this was more of like an at-home dispute. Apparently the guy was mad at Rand Paul over like blowing leaves or something. It's a silly story. But this should be an example of why violence is wrong, okay? And you should never, never underestimate the damage you can do from seemingly small attacks or moments. There are people on the left who think a milkshake's no big deal until they hit somebody who's allergic to dairy. I mean, that's probably rare, but seriously. Rand Paul got into a fight with his neighbor. Now he's having part of his lung removed. It's taking him out of, it's going to take some of his time up. And although it's not an act of overt political violence, I just thought it was interesting because, look, it's political, it's violence, it's not what we're referring to. But I think it's important news to talk about. So let's read the news from the Daily Mail. Rand Paul has part of his lung removed after complications from a 2017 assault where his neighbor tackled him from behind for blowing leaves into his yard while mowing the lawn. And I think what I really more want to talk about is how, look, I have a lot of stories where people thought they were just going to hit somebody and they killed somebody. Something like that, right? We should take seriously why you shouldn't engage in violence no matter what the issue. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you want to support my work. There's a PayPal option, a crypto option, a physical address. You know the drill. If you like these videos, share them. I really mean it. YouTube is deranking my content and others. They're propping up CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, etc. If you like independent commentary like mine, just share the video, because I seriously see it in my numbers when someone does share and when someone doesn't share. So if you do like it, I ask you do that at the very least. Otherwise, don't. You don't have to. Let's read the news. From the Daily Mail, they say, Rand Paul had to undergo surgery over the weekend to address a series of health complications he suffered after he was attacked by his neighbor in 2017, including having part of his lung removed. In a tweet on Monday, the Republican lawmaker said doctors discovered during surgery that part of his lung had been damaged in the assault. Unfortunately, I will have to limit my August activities, Paul's post began. Part of my lung damaged by the 2017 assault had to be removed by surgery this weekend. The doctors, nurses, and staff at Vanderbilt University Medical Center were great. I should be able to return to the Senate in September. Paul was assaulted by Rene Boucher, 59, in November 2017, while he was mowing the lawn outside of the front of his home in Kentucky. He was tackled from behind and suffered 6 broken ribs in the attack, including 3 displaced fractures. Now, I do want to point out, too, a lot of people have cheered for this. While it's not in line with what we're used to in terms of political violence, it's certainly still playing a role to a certain extent in, this conversation. I've seen more than enough tweets from people saying, good, they're glad it happened. No, we should never be glad something like this happened, even if it's a stupid at-home dispute, I guess. Now, I guess one of the things, too, is they mentioned in the story that the media has framed it kind of like him and his neighbor were feuding with each other when he said they never even talked. The guy just got mad and attacked him. Let's read a little bit about this, but then I really want to talk about how, people don't understand the power and danger of even low-level attacks. They say, the injuries caused a number of complications, including the buildup of fluid and blood around the lungs, as well as triggering a nasty bout of pneumonia. Boucher, a retired anesthetist, told Paul in the wake of the attack that he hadn't been able to sell his house for 10 years because the congressman's trees were in the way and he had simply had enough of him. What? It is believed Boucher was referring to woodland at the back of Paul's property that blocks his views of the picturesque private lake that forms the centerpiece of their upscale gated community. Boucher's alleged grievance was relayed to the media by another of Paul's neighbors, Alicia Stivers, the first person to see the bloodied and dazed lawmaker after the November 3rd assault in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Property records confirmed that Boucher had put his house on the market 5 times over the past decade without success. at one point becoming embroiled in a messy lawsuit when a prospective buyer pulled the plug at the last minute. A look at boundary maps and overhead photographs showed many of the offending trees were on Paul's land. Although one realtor pal told DailyMail.com the Boucher property probably didn't sell simply because it was overpriced. The discovery contradicted initial claims that Boucher, a Democrat, had attacked Paul simply as a result of their ideological differences. So this is good news. It was initially reported that it was political violence, and now we're learning it probably wasn't. Although I kind of question whether it was or it wasn't. So I think we get it. I think it's kind of a silly story when we look at this and there's trees. There's a ton of trees. Don't attack people. But I want to point out a few things. There's a story that I know from when I was younger, and I'm going to try and keep details thin because, for one, I don't want to get sued. But there was like a party that happened. One guy thought another guy was hitting on his wife, so he thought, I'm going to punch him in the face. Guy who got punched in the face fell down, hit his head, and died. Other guy goes to prison. See, people don't seem to realize how serious a small attack can really be, and how you will be responsible, and how we should avoid these things. That's why I think it's kind of screwed up when it comes to stories like this. People cheer for this. It's like, dude, getting tackled and breaking your ribs, he could die. He's getting part of his lung removed. These are serious complications. But moving into the realm of more overt political violence, you have people throwing milkshakes, and I stress I know it's silly, man, but you never know. Like, people have dairy allergies. Somebody might react negatively. Somebody could hand you a milkshake and you'll laugh and be like, haha, it's just a milkshake, and they put something in it. Maybe it's got rocks in it. I filmed a video where a guy was walking out of a Trump rally. This video went viral, and someone smacked him in the back of the head with a bag full of, I don't know, we think rocks maybe, and it leaves the guy bloody. You don't know if that could get infected, if that can result in someone truly being hurt. And the point I'm trying to make is, because Antifa bashes people over the head with bike locks and things like that, or clubs people in Portland, or throws makeshift explosives, you have people on the left saying, oh yes, so what? The far right is much worse. And my response is dude, of course, but so what? Like I pointed out in the main channel video today, yes, there are people on the far right who engage in extremely lethal acts, but people on the left are doing this frequently. And a simple punch to the head with medium force can kill somebody. I think movies do us a disservice because you always see a movie or a TV show where someone gets knocked out and then they wake up tied, 50 miles away. It's no, man. When you get knocked out, you go down for a few seconds. If someone's knocked out for longer than a few seconds, they have serious problems. I guess we'll read more about, what's going on here. Oh, okay, so the guy pled guilty. Boucher pled guilty to assaulting a member of Congress in March last year and was sentenced to 30 days in federal prison 3 months later. He was ordered to serve 1 year supervised release, issued a $10,000 fine, and 100 hours of community service. Boucher's attorney later revealed that his client's temper had boiled over on the day of the attack because Paul blew some leaves onto his property as he was mowing his. However, a spokesman for Paul discredited the claim, saying there was no long-standing dispute. The description is untrue. It is impossible to have a dispute when no words of disagreement were ever spoken, neither immediately nor at any other time before the attack occurred. In January, he was awarded $580,000 in damages by a Kentucky jury. $375,000 were punitive, $200 for pain and suffering. Paul's leave of absence now means that both of Kentucky's senators are out of action as a result of health issues. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell suffered a shoulder fracture in a fall on Sunday, and the 77-year-old Republican is now resting up at home. McConnell incurred the injury after he tripped and fell on the outside patio of his Louisville home. He returned to Kentucky on Thursday after the Senate began a 5-week recess. Now, in reference to Mitch McConnell, I will point out too, there was a video where he stumbles and Trump helps him up, and a bunch of people were making fun of him. And apparently, I guess Mitch McConnell had polio when he was younger. I'm not a big fan of the guy. I mean, it's fine, but look, man, I guess what I want to say is there are people cheering on the violence against Rand Paul. He's getting his lung removed. It's not a joke, okay? You can disagree with someone, even think they're bad people, and say there is a line we don't cross. And it's important we maintain that line. Otherwise, everyone will start crossing it, okay? When it comes to Antifa, when it comes to the far right, whatever, we need to make sure we say, I don't care who you are or what you believe, we don't cross this line. I don't care if you think Trump is evil, orange man bad, whatever. We recognize the line we don't cross exists for a reason because, as I'll quote Noam Chomsky, he said, when we enter the arena of violence, the most brutal guy wins, and that is not us, referring to the left. So I hope this is, clear to most people. It's probably not. But, I try to keep the segments short, so I'll leave it there. Stick around. I got a couple more segments coming up for you in a few minutes, and I will see you shortly.